Hi, I'm Ross Veitch. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Wego. Thanks for having me here today for a coffee. Yeah, I describe myself as a travel geek. So somebody who loves to travel, somebody who's spent decades figuring out how to travel, how the systems work, how the technology around travel works, and I'm a geek at heart. So I like building things. So put the two together, you get a travel geek. I think the best thing is watching people that you bring into the organization develop over time. So seeing people who come in maybe quite young or relatively junior and sort of mature over the years they spend with us, and then sometimes go off to build their own companies. I find that incredibly rewarding. So there's a whole bunch of people who've been through Wego over the years and have then gone on to create their own startups and or go on to more senior roles with Wego. So I find that incredibly rewarding. In all seriousness, as CEO, you're ultimately responsible for everything that goes wrong. You're responsible for everything that goes right, which is great, but everything that goes wrong tends to end up on my desk. That can sometimes be stressful. Start young. The earlier you start, the better. Try and pick an idea that you can bootstrap with whatever capital you can rustle up yourself without having to waste time going out to raise from external investors. And ideally pick something that you're passionate about. The average startup is sort of a 10-year journey. So make sure you're picking something that you're happy to commit to over a decade. And then find some people who've already been down the track who can offer you some useful tips. I always say to some of the startups I mentor, if I do nothing else but help you avoid some of the mistakes I made along the way, that should be quite useful to you. So with respect to the journey we've been on at Wego, I think if we had our time over again, we probably would have waited about 5 years before we started, because when we first brought our meta search model into sort of Asia, Middle East, the markets really weren't ready, so we could have done something else for 5 years, then started. We would have burned through a lot less capital, and we would have gone straight into the MENA market, because that's ultimately the opportunity that we've landed on. Yes, I think the most interesting book I've read relatively recently was called Termination Shock by author Neil Stephenson. He's a sort of a science fiction author, and he was writing about period in not too distant future when global warming is becoming has manifested as a serious problem for a lot of nations. Sea levels are rising, and Elon Musk styled entrepreneur in Texas takes it upon himself to do something about it through firing stuff into the atmosphere to stop the amount of light hitting the earth. And then sort of the geopolitics of it as different nations sort of react to that. Highly recommend, very good book, but highly recommend Neil Stephenson generally. There's not one destination. I think it's like the act of travel itself, which I always really enjoy. When I was 21, I was backpacking. I was living in London. I needed to get back to Melbourne in Australia, and I sort of did most of it overland, combination of hitchhiking and trains and buses through Eastern Europe, Soviet Union, Iran, Pakistan, India, Southeast Asia. And I think it's like just the act of being on the road and meeting other travelers and other people along the way, and getting from A to B, I think, is a lot of what makes travel interesting. Not necessarily the destination; it's like the act of travel itself.